And we're back, and I'm here to talk to you about WandaVision Episode 7, and I'm so excited if you can't tell by my excited hand flailing. If you're new here, my name is Destiny Johnson, and this is Nerd News with Destiny, and I've been talking all about every episode of WandaVision because Wanda Maximoff is my favorite Marvel character. But we break it down into 3 sections, right? The first of which is things we know that are a fact. Things that this episode has established as a fact in this universe. Then we get to speculate wildly, so these are things we don't know but we think we know. The most fun portion of this program for me, I'm not gonna lie. And then of course we posit all the questions that we have that we're waiting for the Marvel gods to answer before this show is over, and we have 2 more episodes, so they better tie some stuff up. Without further ado, let's talk television. I think if I move, you can see my dog. There he is. He's snoozing. So just know that he's with us throughout this video. Okay, now back to me. I put makeup on, so you're gonna look at my face. Alright, I've got my notes here, color-coded as per usual, because you should know by now the kind of person that I am. So let's start off with things that we know from this episode, and the first thing that we know is that we are in modern times now. We are in the 2010s of some description. And I remember last episode I was so puzzled about, like, what's the modern setting? Literally Modern Family. Literally Modern Family. Hello? I probably could have figured that out if I weren't like smooth braided like a koala. But anyways, I really enjoy they do a really good job bringing in all of the tropes of the sitcom they're trying to emulate to sort of like make that ping in your brain. I think they do just like a great job with that. It's very cute, very clever. And we learn 2 things simultaneously. 1, Wanda is hella struggling. She is depresso, my girl. May I recommend Wellbutrin to you? It didn't solve all my problems, but it could solve maybe like 5 of yours, maybe. And we also learn that Billy is struggling with his powers, right? So the boys run upstairs and they go to Wanda, who's still in bed, and they say, Mom, you have to come downstairs, something's the matter with my game. And it turns out that Wanda's powers, probably influenced by her depression, are on the fritz. And so it's like freaking out their game. It's turning from like a Game Boy to like a GameCube to like Uno to anyways. So while they're up there, Billy says to Wanda, like, Mom, my head is so loud. And this is a trope that we see a lot in comics with telepaths, where they'll talk about like first getting their telepathic abilities and how loud the world was because they weren't able to like filter some things out. We see this in infamous telepaths like my girl Emma Frost and Jean Grey, Betsy Braddock. So yeah, I think that was interesting that they brought that in, but Wanda is too depressed to deal with it right now. And I think that's a big tell because Wanda cares so much for her kids. She cares so much that she created them in a false reality where she could have children with a synthezoid. Just girly things. So we also know that this is taking place directly after the Halloween event. So like the next day, because Wanda throws back the covers and she's still in her Halloween outfit. And if that isn't a whole mood, right? We see more examples of her powers in the fritz as she goes downstairs to make her depression meal, which is cereal, and girl, I feel you big time on that one. And the milk changes from like almond milk to like whole milk and like a 1950s sort of glass bottle and all, etc., etc. And she's aware that things are weird, you know? She's not ignoring it. She's sus as well. And we leave Westview to go back to Sword, who has set up a new sort of home base about 8 miles away from the Hex, where we see Hayward, and he's talking about how he's going to attack Westview. It's fun. Great. I hate him. We also learned that WandaVision is no longer streaming to the outside world, right? That signal that they were using, that Darcy so smartly found to watch what was going on inside the Hex, they no longer have access to that. For some unknown reason, it is down. Speaking of Darcy, our favorite scientist is of course inside the Hex, and like everybody else who got swallowed up in the Hex when Wanda expanded it to save Vision in the previous episode, Darcy was recast, and she was recast as the escape artist in the circus that Wanda created out of the Sword agents who were sucked into the Hex. But Vision sees Darcy and he remembers her from outside the Hex, and he's like, we locked eyes, you know something. And she of course is under mind control, so she's not exactly herself at the moment. She thinks that Vision is hitting on her, to which she agrees to. Anyway, Vision does that like temple touch thing and she comes back to herself, and they steal a car from the circus and they're heading back to Vision and Wanda's house, while Darcy is sort of explaining to Vision all of Wanda's casual trauma, that she had to murder him only for him to be brought back, to be murdered again in front of her, and then she lost her brother, and everything else, and sort of explaining why her psyche might be so fragile at the moment. And as they're trying to drive to Wanda's house, they're running into all of these ridiculous sort of roadblocks. Streetlights out in the middle of nowhere, and then there's like a power crew that comes in front of them, and Vision has this sort of one-on-one with the camera, like Modern Family style, and he's like, I think Wanda's doing this, and I'm not amused, which was very funny. Vision really comes around to being, empathetic and sympathetic to Wanda's plight after Darcy explains to him what happens. And this has nothing to do with anything, but I think Vision has been done the best by the MCU out of almost any character. And that's because Vision from the OG comics is a jerk. He's super misogynistic and like just the worst. And a lot of characters, male characters who were written back then, there's like a lot of like machismo and like they're like super toxically masculine. Like that's not just Vision. But I haven't read any recent Vision comics like the Tom King run, so that's my impression of Vision. And they make him very likable. And of course that's to Paul Bettany's credit as well, who's a phenomenal actor. So Vision up and gets out of the truck and leaves Darcy there, presumably to meet them at a later date, but he is going to fly to the house. He doesn't want to wait around for this. He wants to see Wanda. And we learn not only is Vision sus of Pietro, which he mentions to Darcy, but Wanda is officially sus of Pietro, right? So we remember in the previous episode she got mad at him because he was interrupting Billy while Billy was trying to tell Wanda where Vision was so she could save him, and she boom, power blasted him away. Well, we haven't seen him again since at this point, and sort of Billy's like, well, Uncle P said this to me, and Wanda's like, do not trust that man. He is not your uncle. And Billy and Tommy are, of course, confused, and they're like, well, who is he? And she's like, I'm your mom, and I'm supposed to have all the answers, but I don't have all the answers. And she says, in fact, I'm starting to think everything is meaningless, which really shows just how deeply depressed our favorite witch is getting. I'm really worried about her. Girl, please. I know you've been through so much. Please. Ooh. And in case it wasn't entirely clear, all this stuff that's going on in Westview has only been a little over a week, and also is only a couple weeks after the events of Endgame, where, she had to murder her robot husband and then watch him die again. Anyway. We're really just hammering home the point that she's super depressed. She has this sort of Modern Family one-on-one where she's talking like, I don't know why things keep happening and I can't control them. She's talking about her powers being on the fritz, because not only did it happen with the milk and the boys' games, but after neighbor Agnes comes over and takes the boys so Wanda can have a day to herself, her TV starts changing, the house starts changing to look like the sets from prior episodes of WandaVision, right? So those like decade type wallpaper and the sort of 70s looking stairs and all that kind of stuff sort of keeps popping back, and she's having to fix it, but she's not doing it, even though it's her powers doing it, and she doesn't understand why she's sort of out of control. And during that, the producer, or whoever's behind the scenes, says to her, well, do you think that this is what you deserve? And Wanda's like, you're not supposed to talk. And we learn later why somebody said something sort of out of turn, but also this is definitely like, I think, a glimpse into the way Wanda views herself. She will later on in the episode call herself a villain, basically, and she's just feeling like she's doing the wrong thing. She knows what's going on in Westview isn't quite right. She knows that she kept it up for selfish reasons, and she is a good person and is feeling terrible about it. And that is sad. So we also learn, I was right about this, and I feel very proud. Sorry. Ew. Anyways, Hayward wanted Vision. We know that for a fact now. We know that because Jimmy Woo and Monica are in a car, as we left them in the last episode, heading to Monica's man over the hill. And he's telling Monica, yeah, Darcy got through the last firewall. And she learned that Vision's corpse was... They were making an attempt to reanimate it, to turn him into a weapon for this thing called Operation Cataract. They don't really go into anything more about that other than it's called Operation Cataract. And they needed Vision for it. And that's why Hayward was tracking Vision inside of the Hex, right? And that's why he's going to attack the Hex to try and get him out, right? He really wants Vision's bod. It feels good being right. I'm going to be honest. I was wrong about a lot of things. including who Monica's man over the hill was, right? I had speculated that it could be Reed Richards, maybe Doctor Strange, maybe Shuri, maybe Riri Williams, people we haven't been introduced to yet. Riri Williams we haven't been introduced to yet. But it turns out that Monica's man over the hill is actually a group of people. It's a group of people who defected from Hayward's sword, so they're sword soldiers and agents who are on a different side of the hex, and were there to support Monica to try and get her back inside of the hex, right? And they do this by basically giving her an armored lunar vehicle that she tries to drive directly into the hex to no avail. Basically, the car gets stuck because Wanda's power is trying to reanimate it, but of course we know that Wanda's powers are on the fritz right now. The hex turns the lunar vehicle sort of half into a regular truck, and the rest of it is the lunar vehicle, and sort of Monica has to bail out because the truck is sort of, about to tip. And then Monica just storms right into the hex because she's just truly that cool. She's truly that cool, right? So she storms into the hex, something that seems really difficult and like it might be borderline impossible for somebody to do, but she manages it. And when she gets on the other side, this is something we now know too. Monica has gotten her powers as Spectrum or Photon. She has lots of like aliases in the comics. I called her Spectrum because that's what I'm familiar with. But when she gets into the hex, you can see her eyes have turned blue. She can see all of the energy radiating through the hex. It's super cool. And then she sort of turns to normal. So it seems like a power she can turn on and off. We don't know if she's aware of that yet right now. It kind of doesn't seem like she is. We have known this, but it becomes extremely apparent in this episode that Monica is trying so hard to save Wanda. She goes to Wanda's house to confront her, and she's like, listen, I have lost important people in my life too, and I know that grief. Like, Director Hayward is going to attack Westview. He wants Vision. Don't let him make you the bad guy. And that's when Wanda says, maybe I already am, or maybe I am the bad guy, It's clear that, like, her self-perception is just in the gutter, right? And we see Monica flex her powers again here because Wanda is using her powers on Monica, lifts her up, goes to drop her, and Monica uses her powers to sort of save herself. Super interesting, and I think it's important to point out that when she crossed over into the hex, because of her powers, she wasn't reanimated or recast as anybody. She has all of her memories. She's wearing her normal outfit. She's just herself, which is very impressive because, as we know, anything that enters the hex sort of bends to the rules of the hex, right? And then, of course, as Wanda and Monica are fighting, Wanda's yelling, like, I don't want to see you. She thinks that Sword has been antagonizing her this whole time. She thinks they're responsible for the Dollar General Pietro that we see. And then, of course, Agnes comes over. Agnes comes over and consoles Wanda. It's okay, Monica, you need to get out of here, and takes Wanda into her home. Her home where theoretically the twins should be. Remember we mentioned this before? Wanda, where are the twins? Oh, they're probably in the basement playing. And then we get the banger of all bangers, the best song that's been in this entire show. It was Agatha all along. I was right about that too, which makes me feel really good. I mean, a lot of people were right about it, but also me. Thank you, me in the future, for giving me an award right here. Thank you. I need this win. Just, like, let me have it. Please, please. Anyway, Wanda goes into the basement, which isn't really a basement. It's Agatha's witch lair. And we see a lot of really important information inside of that lair. We don't see the boys, first of all. But we do see a book, which becomes important. We're going to speculate wildly about that a little bit later. And also, we see a bunch of sort of, demonic, witchy-looking sigils, which could theoretically be important. And of course, Agnes comes down and introduces herself as Agatha Harkness. And the audience learns that she's been behind lots of this stuff throughout the entire show, sort of pulling the strings on Wanda's life, including Dollar General Pietro. Yikes. And that's where it sort of cuts off for them. But we do get a mid-credit scene where Monica is sort of poking around. She finds a basement. She opens the basement, and it has the same sort of weird, viney, purple-looking things that are in Agatha's lair, letting the audience know that Agatha probably has some power over that. And then Dollar General Pietro shows up and scares her, and that's that. That's where we're left. Waiting for episode 8. Hello? Ugh, man. It was a really great episode. They managed to pack so much into 30 minutes. It's incredible. So those are the things that we know, which is cool. Let's speculate wildly. This is my favorite part of the program, and I had a lot to say. So here's what we think we know, aka speculate wildly with me. So I mean, I think this one's pretty obvious, but no one said it for sure. Wanda's like definitely careening into an Avengers Disassembled sort of breakdown. And in Avengers Disassembled, which is a comic I suggest that you read if you like Wanda Maximoff, she has this huge breakdown where she accidentally kills Vision, Ant-Man, and Clint Barton. Whoops, it's fine, they all come back to life. It's comic books, nobody stays dead forever, really. But she's having this terrible breakdown, and Doctor Strange, the only way that he can help her is by putting her into like a trance, like a catatonic sleep, basically. So is that what Doctor Strange is gonna come do? I don't know. But I think she's careening to this sort of breakdown. Lots of things say it, her own self-perception, the way she's super depressed, the way that she just lets the boys go off with like a neighbor, the way that she's just using her powers out in the open, but also, while she's fighting Monica in front of her house, there's like a delivery man, like a package delivery guy, and on the package it says fragile. And if that's not a statement about her current psyche, I don't know what is. But also same. It's fine. I also think that we're gearing up for some real action. Like, I think Vision and Wanda are gonna have to fight Agatha. I also think that Monica is gonna have to fight Pietro, which is like dramatic and big, and we haven't seen like a ton of like action, right? The most we saw was when Wanda exited the Hex and she threatened Sword, and I was like super living for that. So I'm ready to see, I don't know, some like real power usage, some real CGI, which Marvel is super good at because their budget is like a lot. A lot. I think that Monica's loyal Sword agents, the ones that defected with her, might be Skrulls. And if you remember in the Captain Marvel movie, basically the Skrulls were painted out to be these bad guys, but they weren't. They're just this alien race that was like being hunted by another alien race, and they sought refuge with Captain Marvel, who saved them, but also Maria Rambeau, who was Monica's mother, and Monica met a bunch of them while this was all going on. So it would make sense that Maria would give jobs to Skrulls in an agency that's meant to keep like intergalactic peace, because they're aliens and they know a lot about space, theoretically. They space travel and stuff like that. So, possible? I don't know. Maybe. Interesting. Maybe. I think it's interesting. This is just a video of me complimenting myself. Ugh. So I think Monica and her ability to change her sort of energy state is, one, the reason why she wasn't recast as somebody different, and two, I think she'll be the key to sort of bringing the Hex down with Wanda, right? Whenever they figure that out, if they figure that out, I think Monica was able to get through the Hex because she could change her energy state, and that's her powers in the comics. Basically, she can make her body match any like energy signature. Let's talk about the commercial this week. It was for an antidepressant called Nexus. Now, I think that this is talking about Agatha's lair, which I think is maybe a little obvious. So Agatha's lair is like the nexus of all these different multiverse places, right? All these different realities. When we were down there, we saw like a few different doors and stuff like that. Well, what looked like doors with like these sigils and stuff on them. And so I think that that's what it was talking about, right? Like, stay in the nexus, stay in this weird reality, and it will solve all your problems, because you won't have problems, because this is a false reality. Would I take that pill? Honestly? Possibly. If my husband ended up being like a synthezoid with like a great posh accent who just like catered to my every whim, I would think about it. You know? So of course, when we go into Agatha's basement, we see a book that's important, and people are speculating that this is either the Darkhold or the Necronomicon, which are two books that Agatha like has in the comics. However, the Darkhold has already appeared in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and now that's not MCU canon, it's MCU adjacent. But I think that, I don't know, if it already appeared somewhere else, maybe they wouldn't make it appear again, but I don't know. I do sort of speculate that maybe this is the book that was missing from the Doctor Strange movie. If you remember, Steven and Wong are talking about a book that's missing from their shelf, and how all of the books in there are magical books, and they're super important. That would be interesting. I don't know if that's true. It's just like, it's not the only Doctor Strange tie-in. The other one is, so we see all these sort of sigils on the wall, and I'm not trying to be like blasphemous, but they're witchy, demonic looking, you know, somebody from TV made them, they're fake, it's fine. But I think, alright, so the ancient one, played by Tilda Swinton in the Doctor Strange movie, talks about how sometimes these interdimensional beings, these bad guys, will come and they will bestow powers upon sorcerers that they cannot get by just studying. Now, are we talking about Mephisto here? I don't know. I don't know. My coworker Jared, hi coworker Jared, said, do you think that it's Mephisto? And I was like, man, I don't know, because like bringing in a demon into the MCU seems like a lot, even for the MCU. But now we have all these weird sigils and this nexus where they could theoretically bring in a demon from an alternate reality or something. I don't know. It seems like an easy way to introduce a demon into a place where a demon doesn't really belong. I don't know. You know, it seems like a coincidence that all of those years ago, Tilda Swinton with her bald head was talking about these interdimensional beings that latch onto sorcerers and give them powers that they wouldn't naturally have. However, nothing is a coincidence in the MCU. If you don't think all of this hasn't been planned for a billion years, you know, alright. So, here's something interesting. I think I may have debunked it on my own, but I'm just gonna throw it out there because we're speculating wildly, and that's what we do here. I think if the boys don't show up in the next episode, that they went into a different reality, right? And Wanda would tear apart the world for them. And I would love to see that. I mean, she's suffering right now, and I don't want to see her, like, spiral anymore, but also, I don't know. But I looked on the IMDb, and it says that the boys are in 5 episodes, and with the final 2 episodes, that would make there 5 total, so that may not be true. They're probably going to show up somewhere next episode, I don't know. And this last one, I think makes sense. I don't know. I think Agatha needs Wanda's powers for something. Whatever she's doing, whoever she's working for, if she's working for somebody, or if she's trying to complete something on her own, I think she needs Wanda's power to do it. She's not powerful enough on her own, even though we've seen her be very powerful, right? She's influencing a lot of things, but Wanda has taken over a lot. So, I don't know. How powerful is Agatha? Kind of leads me into the next section where I ask questions that I have. Maybe you can answer some of them. But I think mostly it's up to the Marvel gods. Is the Marvel gods Kevin Feige? Anyway, like, is Darcy okay? Is she gonna be okay? Because Monica went through the hex and she got all these powers, and I know she had to go through the hex a few times for that to happen, and Darcy's only gone through once, and theoretically she may go through one more time on her way out, or something will happen and the hex will just disintegrate. I don't really know, but is she gonna get powers? That'd be super dope. I'd be really down for that. I know I said that before, but anyway. Will Hayward get Vision? Right, Hayward is planning this attack on the hex to get Vision. Will he succeed? I don't know. When will Doctor Strange get here? I'm getting impatient. There's 2 episodes left. Hello? If he does like a cameo in like a mid-credit scene in the last episode, I'm really upset. We finally get Benedict Cumberbatch on American television and we get like 2 seconds of him, I'll be furious. Who is Ralph? Agatha, aka Agnes, keeps mentioning her husband Ralph. She mentioned him in the first episode. She's made jokes about him pretty consistently. She mentions him in this episode. She's wearing a wedding ring. Who is she married to? Is Ralph Mephisto? I don't know. I don't even know if Mephisto's in play here. I don't know. I feel weird putting that out there. I don't know. Okay. Why is Agatha doing this? I think, of course, this is one of the biggest questions. Like, what is her aim, right? What does she want from the multiverse? If she's creating one, seems like she probably is. Like, why? For who? For what purpose? To what end? Is she okay? I don't know. Am I okay? I don't know. Ugh. That's all I have for WandaVision episode 7. There was so much packed in those 30 minutes, my little smooth brain could barely keep up. How are you doing? Are you enjoying it? I love getting tweets from people, and calls, and texts. WandaVision was so good, what was this, blah blah blah. So like, if you feel like you need to talk to somebody about WandaVision, you can find me on Twitter. A tweet. I also post pictures of my dog, who's like mad cute. So it's worth a follow. I also have a TikTok. Where I post comics content, comics adjacent content, content making fun of the MCU. You know, all the good stuff. So if you're on the TikTok and you'd like to follow, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm really enjoying these WandaVision recaps. I love speculating with you guys. I love hearing your conspiracy theories, so please tweet them to me or put them in the comment box below. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. I do have all this weird comics knowledge, but we know that a lot of the source material has been changed by the MCU, right? They take things in comics and they distill them in some weird way, and they use like some ideas from here and some ideas from here and make whatever the heck they want. So who knows if all of this conjecture is worth anything. I do feel celebratory about the couple of things that I just happened to stumble upon, but otherwise, I don't claim to be any kind of expert. I'm just a nerd who likes to read nerd stuff. However, I just want to let you know that this is going to continue because when WandaVision ends, there's a break, and then we get a making of WandaVision through Disney+, and then we jump right into the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then we get a break of 1 week where we get the making of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then we get the Loki show. So my year is booked. How about yours? I'm really excited for all these new shows, of course. I'm really excited for the Loki one. I love Loki so much, and I'm super excited to see him in weird real-life scenarios. I've gone off the plot a little bit. I really appreciate you guys taking this time to watch this video and hang out with me and talk about nerd stuff. I really love talking about nerd stuff with you guys. So let's do it again. Same-ish time, same place. And until then, this has been Nerd News with Destiny. I did it. It's late, but I did it. I already took my setup down because I was finished, so you're getting this like slightly jankier one. I just wanted to say, look out for the colors of the powers, right? So Marvel's really intentional about their color choice, and we know that Wanda's powers are, of course, red. We know Doctor Strange has the orangish, yellowish looking thing. We know that Agatha is purple now, and we know that Billy, her son, is blue. So just keep an eye out for that kind of stuff because I think it may lead you to some clues later on, maybe not in this series, but as we progress forward. That's just some nice little foreshadowing for you, maybe. Okay, bye.